Well, hello. I've been asked a question by Mr. White Diesel Shed. Hello, Mr. White Diesel Shed. He owns a Mark III Ford Mondeo, which needs a few rather expensive repairs doing to it. Should he stick with his Mark III Mondeo, or for a few dollars more, purchase a Mark IV Mondeo? I can answer that one straight away. Absolutely. Purchase the Mark IV. Now I'm off down the pub. See ya. See, they do a 1.6 petrol, a 2 litre petrol, even a 2 litre LPG petrol. But you know what? I swear to God, in all my years, I have never, ever seen a Mark IV Mondeo with a petrol engine in it. So for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to talk about petrol engines because I simply do not know. Do you know what? It was 1995 where this company here, Steve's Taxis, they purchased 6 brand spanking new Mark I Ford Mondeo 1.8 TDIs, and each of these cars was a different colour. And I remember the day we stood there and we viewed these cars. We were like, wow, this is the future. These cars are like spaceships. You've got to understand that after the Ford Sierra, when the Mark I Mondeo hit the streets, it was quite a revolution. Well, it was for us anyway. Of course, then 1996 came and the Mark II Mondeo came out, which wasn't a lot different from the Mark I, apart from the headlights of course. And we then had to wait until, I think around about the year 2000, the Mark III Mondeo came out. The Mark III was a totally new shape, totally radical to what we'd seen. Our mouths were wide open, dribbling at these new cars. The Mark III Mondeos were hugely improved, especially when it came to the suspension. And then it was a further 7 years till the Mark IV come out. Was it worth the wait? Yes, it bloody well was. It was another radical shape. The Mark IV Mondeo looked a totally modern shape. You see, how can I put this? For a lot of people, choosing a motor car is a bit like choosing a woman. I would definitely go as far to say the Mark IV Mondeo is a good few notches above average. So if you're thinking of purchasing a Mark IV Mondeo for aesthetics alone, go for it, because shape matters. I mean, come on. We all want to drive a car that we actually enjoy driving, you know what I mean? Something that looks aesthetically pleasing, just like you would like your wife to look aesthetically pleasing. Anyway, getting back to the question in hand, should Mr. White Diesel Shed keep the Mark III or get the Mark IV? He's talking about probably a 2009 model 2 litre diesel Mark IV Mondeo with roughly 100,000 miles on the clock. This is his dilemma. A lot of these Mondeos have been taxis, hire cars, lease cars, you name it. They've been run into the goddamn ground. Nobody wants to buy a pig in the poke, do they? See, the Mark III Mondeo has been a very reliable, solid motor car for a lot of people. The problem is, it's getting on a bit now, and the Mark IV would be like an upgrade, 2.1, whatever. So just to clarify, the Mark IV Mondeo is a nice, modern looking motor car. But anyway, there must be a ton of reviews on these Mondeos. My little talk is not about the toys that are fitted to them, it's about what could probably drop off them. So here she is, my new wife. So I guess we'll run through a few problems she may have. There are 2 main engines we're going to talk about here. The first one is what's fitted in this car here, which is a 2 litre Peugeot diesel engine. They also do a 2.2 Peugeot diesel engine, and the other engine which you could well come across is the Ford 1.8 TDCI engine. You know, if I was to make comparisons about the 1.8 TDCI and the 2 litre Peugeot engine, it could take some time because they're 2 quite different engines. The 1.8 TDCI is what I would call a bulletproof engine. The reason I say that is because if they were serviced and maintained properly, they'll bloody well last forever. Unfortunately, there are a number of these 1.8 TDCIs rolling around with a cam belt in the lower crankcase which runs in oil. It's a bloody expensive job to replace them, so that would have to be taken into consideration if you were about to purchase one of these cars. And I will point out here, the clutches and flywheels on the 1.8s don't last very long at all. Now this particular Mondeo here is a 2014 2 litre diesel Peugeot engine, and I really have to say these engines aren't bad at all. Knowing when the camshaft drive belt was last replaced, or if it has ever been replaced, would be a plus. However, they're not a bad job to get done. One important thing to note here, your exhaust camshaft, which is here, which is the one the cam belt goes on, is connected to the inlet camshaft via a little chain inside the cylinder head. A lot of these 2 litre or 2.2 diesel Peugeot engines, where they haven't had proper oil changes, the chains in them cylinder heads mess up and they get very, very noisy. So if you've got any strange noises coming from this area of the engine, chances are the chain is rattling. And if that's the case, I would walk away. Now these plastic dipsticks, they do have a tendency for these little end pieces to break off and get stuck in the bottom of the sump. So just make sure your dipstick's in one piece. When these diesel engines are running, they should be perfectly still. If the engine is rocking to and fro or vibrating badly, or a haze of blue smoke coming out from the exhaust pipe, it'll have a problem. If you don't know what you're looking for when you're buying a used car, it's probably worth taking someone with you who does know. So remember, don't come a knocking when this Mondeo's a rocking. But yeah, I feel I need to hammer this point home. This engine should be perfectly still. If it's rocking at all or vibrating, you've got issues. They're going to be expensive issues. Now while the clutches last pretty damn well on these 2 litre diesels, here's a little test to try out. Because you don't want to buy a Mark 4 Mondeo 2 litre diesel and then the very next day find out the clutch and dual mass flywheel's knackered. You want to sit in the driver's seat, close all the doors, make sure all your windows are wound up, start the engine and have it idling. Then slowly press the clutch pedal down to about just before halfway. If you hear a rattling noise, your dual mass flywheel's buggered. At which point I would avoid making a purchase. And you want to most definitely take one of these cars for a bloody good road test. If it's a manual transmission, which I recommend, go through all the gears properly, because 2nd gear synchro and 3rd gear synchro get bollocksed on these cars, and you'll know that when you go to change into 2nd or 3rd gear. You'll get that crunchy feeling. Okay, let's stick it up in the air. Your rear trailing arm bushes here are one major thing to look at on the back end of these cars, because the bushes can literally come out of the arm and it will set you back a few bob if you have to take your car to a garage to get them bushes replaced. The vehicle's wiring loom that run into this left and rear ABS block connector quite commonly break. Any knocking noises you find on the front end of one of these cars, generally speaking, is an anti-roll bar drop link or the shock absorber where the pin gets worn. The rear brake pads on these Mark 4 Mondeos don't tend to last too long. 10,000 miles, maybe a bit more. But there again, what you've got to understand is 10,000 miles to me is about 6 weeks motoring. 10,000 miles to you might be a year or two's motoring. And these diesel particulate filter nozzles do block up as well. It's usually around about 100,000 miles or more. One important thing I will say here on these Mark 4s, just behind the passenger front bumper is the engine ECU. So if you smash this front corner, there's a good chance you're going to smash your ECU. So if you're thinking about buying one of these motor cars, I would certainly check the inner wheel arch liner and the panels are all in place. Because if you had to buy a new ECU for one of these cars, you may as well buy a new car. It is well worth checking behind this front grille that the shutter mechanism isn't all bust to hell, because many of these Mondeos have been in front end accidents and all your radiator grille shutter mechanism behind here gets smashed to pieces and rarely gets replaced. Your airbag control module is just underneath this centre console here. Apparently, if you put your mobile phone in there and leave it for too long, you can break your airbag module. Oh, just in case you're interested, this is a 4-post scissor lift. It's freaking awesome. If you like to swing one of these around, you'll be glad there's no posts to get in the way. How about I touch on some positive points? I've actually never had a broken coil spring in one of these. Now I do remember on the Mark 3 Mondeos, we are forever changing brake pipes. I've never even found a remotely corroded brake pipe on a Mark 4 Mondeo yet. The front suspension, lower ball joints and rear arm bushes, they just seem to last forever. Coffee today. I feel like climbing the walls. These Mondeos, they're certainly not an Austin Maestro. You know what I'm saying. The interior in these cars, the seats, the upholstery, the carpets, the dash, it's all very hard wearing. Does well, I've got no complaints whatsoever. You know, I'm being totally honest here. I really can't fault these cars too much. We've had a lot of these Mark IV Mondeos here, from brand new until like 300,000 miles. We hardly ever had any warranty issues, although I will say the Mark V Mondeos do tend to go to the Ford dealer for quite a bit of warranty. I think the moral of the story is, if you can find a good Mark IV Mondeo with service history that's been looked after properly and had the oil changes done when it's supposed to have been done, you can't go far wrong with one of these cars. I absolutely wish I could just shower you with a ton of problems that these cars have. Unfortunately, I can't, because they just don't have that many problems. But yeah, if one of these cars is what you fancy, then absolutely, I certainly do recommend them. They've been used here as taxis for years, and they've held up really bloody well. You see, there's nothing on these Mondeos for me to turn around and say, don't buy this car. You've just got to picture this sexy lady with xenon headlamps, alley wheels and tinted windows. I could do a lot of miles in this car. Anyhows, now I've rambled on for I don't know how long. I suppose I better do what I come in here to do in the first place then. Fit a new rear windscreen. Anyone else with a question? Leave a message in the comments below. I'll be sure to get back to you. Hell, I may even make an uninformative video, just like this one. See ya.